Kita ba doon? Paano ba maganda? Nakaganon. Kaya lang, it's opposite. Opposite the cam. Kasi supposedly, when we have a video recording, if we use Zoom, ano siya, and I have a face at the upper part, and then the PowerPoint is occupying the monitor. Kaya lang, in this YouTube live, how am I going to be seen where the PowerPoint is also seen? Okay, marunong sa video. Ganyan na lang ba? Ha? Nakaganto ako. Dito yung PowerPoint, no? Okay. I mean, the cellphone should be here. Ganyan. Hello. Yeah, oo, you can, I am, and then tell me who am I going to make a moderator? Sinong gagawin kong moderator? Ikaw? Mama-monitor mo yung, oo. You may YouTube. Nasaan si si Heart? Di ba may YouTube ka na? So, try entering Kamahal Vlogs. Ito sa live natin. And then, mag-comment ka. And then, I'll add you as moderator. Pag naging blue na yung kulay mo doon, tinatawag na, pag may jacket ka na, jacket ang terminology kasi hindi, pag naka-blue ka na, mamomonitor mo yung comments. Pag may mga unwanted, harsh comments, madedelete mo siya. Ganon. Sige, okay lang. Yan na lang. Yan. Hindi kaya. Okay, for those, you may data. Ayan, so, hello to my students if you're already here. Yan, the comment section is now open for you to leave your comments. Pwedeng continuously, no, nagko-comment kayo, nakiki-join kayo sa klase. Yes, good afternoon, dear students. And then, medyo i-monitor lang natin kasi buong mundo kasi nakakanood nito. Okay, so pag may mga harsh comments, so just let me know para na nare-remove natin. With the help of the moderators in my YouTube channel, I will also add some students here with me to become moderators kasi kayo yung active viewer and participant in this live streaming. Okay, so for today's lesson, our subject for this afternoon, of course, is different from the one that we had earlier. This afternoon is the teaching and assessment of the macro skills. Okay, earlier this morning it was the teaching profession. Since we already had the preliminaries earlier, we will not be discussing that anymore. This afternoon, we will go straight to our lesson for the day. But before that, of course, I would like to ask our leader for the attendance. Ayan. So may list naman si Miss Sheila for that. So here in our live streaming audience, mga students ko dyan, the one, I think Deborah will be the one checking the attendance. Okay? All right. So, kita ba ako pag umupo? Okay. So, kailangan yata lumapit. So, siguro sa nandito na live, face-to-face, this will be a little odd. Kasi di ba nandito ako pero parang ako nag-video record. Right? But again, this is for the purpose of those classmates at home. But we can do this interactively. I can ask questions from time to time, diba? Para mas interactive tayo compared to pure video record. Okay. Alright, so good afternoon everyone. Yeah, so nahihiya-hiya pa sila because this is our first face-to-face and the time is challenging. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So again, our lesson for the day is teaching and assessment of the macro skills. And for our overview, we have to, I hope you can see our PowerPoint there. This subject explores the nature of reading, all right, and the theoretical basis, principles, and methods, and strategies in teaching and assessing, all right? Not only reading, but of course, what are the 4 macro skills that you have mentioned earlier? All right, perfect. So it's reading, writing, listening, viewing. What is the other one? I think we missed speaking. Yeah, we love speaking, right? English majors or teachers in particular love speaking. That's why we are in this class. You know very well that when you are a teacher, you are always to speak in front of the class. Okay. So for module 1, we will be focusing on listening, the first macro skills. Okay. By the way, the PowerPoint is posted and will be posted in our Google Classroom. So if you're not fond of writing, you can just listen and read with me and then be participative. You can opt to not write because again the PowerPoint is available in the Google Classroom. So for our topics under listening, of course, first bullet, the definition of listening, and then why people listen. We will also discuss the listening process, classifications of listening, guidelines for listening well, and I will give you some examples of activities in integrating with other macro skills. Okay, so what are they? They will be discussed later. For the objectives, identify the consequences of the misunderstanding, state ways on how to improve listening, and reflect on your own listening. So for the introduction, language teaching covers how many macro skills? 4. All right, and those are macro skills needed for communication. Okay, so those are, again, everybody read. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Very good. Okay. Did language teachers plan lessons and sequences of each lessons, which include when you plan a lesson as a future teacher, when you plan a lesson, it will include the mixture of all 4 plus 1. What again is the additional 1? Very good. So we as a teacher, we will be having a mixture of all those. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-focus na. You cannot just focus on listening in one sitting. Okay, it's actually the mixture of 4 in developing one macro skill. All the other macro skills will be included. So I hope you are following. Okay. And so again, that is 4 plus 1 macro skills. And when we learn a language, there are 4 skills that we need to complete. Okay, that's why as a student, if you would go back to your preschool, elementary days, when a teacher teaches a language, it's not just a listening activity. It's not just a speaking activity. If you would go back to those times, it is actually the combination of all of them for us to be able to acquire that language. Do you agree? May it be in Filipino or in English. Okay? And when we learn our native language, how do we learn our native language, by the way? Sige nga, we are all Filipinos here. Do you remember how you learned Filipino? Sige nga, go ahead.
By acquiring the language and exposing myself to social environment.
Alright. Any other? That's correct. So you expose, when you are exposed as a child, you're hearing all of the people surrounding you speaking a language, you're exposed and you are listening to the adults around you speaking the language. That is when we first acquire the language. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then, after listening, we begin to? Very good. Ang gagaling naman. A round of applause. Okay. And then after speaking, eventually, our parents teach us to? Write agad? Read. Alright. We start to read one by one. So what was the first article or what was the first? When I was young, I remember I started reading comics. Parang doon ako natuto in the 80s. So how about you, millennials? What were the materials? Yes? Raise hand, please. Sige. What material did you first read? Abacada, that is a booklet, right? In elementary. Alright. So all of you, Abacada. How about the others? Manga. Do you, as a child, wala naman. Okay. So there you go. And then, finally, the last skill that we learn to communicate is writing. Correct. And these are again called the four. Correct. For macro or language skills. Right. Again, let us define listening. Okay, can someone help me read what is in the PowerPoint? What is, alright, listening. According to the slide, yes?
According to the slide, listening is the basic skills about hearing and receiving other people's opinion and observing facts and emotional intelligence in the
Yeah. However, that's correct. Okay? Not every person must hear to listen. Okay? Malalim siya, no? I'll give you an example. Deaf people can use sign language. Before I was able to, I memorized that, but now I forgot. Anyway, sign language or lip reading. That's why there was saying, di ba, read my lips. Okay? And then we can lip read to listen. And they can, even if, for example, the deaf and those using sign languages can listen in their own way and can even be excellent listeners. Alright? Without good listening skills, it can be difficult to grasp new topics. Kailangan yung pakikinig, no? Building meaningful relationships can also be problematic without what? Without listening. Even inside our families, if we do not really listen to our parents, our friends, siblings, so definitely there will be problematic situations in our family. In fact, listening well is one of the main components of a healthy relationship. Yung mga marunong daw makinig sa magulang. How many here are listening to their parents even at that age. Wow! Nice. Give yourselves a warm round of applause for that. Palakpakan niyo yung sarili niyo. You deserve that. Bihira na kasi, no? At your age, no? Many are just not listening anymore because, hey, I'm doing well. I'm good. I can manage. I'm not a teenager anymore. Let me do my thing and I'll, diba? Marami nang ganun ngayon. So, there you have it. And both people need to remain committed to listening to one another. So we are committed to listen. Okay? Like now, you are committed to listening to me. May it be in face-to-face or for all of you out there in our live streaming, you are committed to listening to me. Okay, I'll just adjust this a little bit. Okay. All right. So why do people listen? Medyo magulo yung ating no? But anyway, there are 5. Why do we listen? Kindly choose one and cite an example. I'll do, okay. Heart, go ahead.
I'll choose to get information.
To get information.
My example is when we are listening to news. For example, the weather for today, kung ulan ba or maaraw. So, aware tayo kung ano yung weather natin and kung may darating ng bagyo, may import tayo kung ano dapat natin gawin.
Yes, thank you so much. That is correct. I remember one famous, is he an announcer? I don't know if you are familiar with that person I'm thinking of. Anyway, when you are informed, when you are properly informed, you can act accordingly. Isn't it? Kasi pag alam mo, yung nangyayari, definitely, alam mo rin yung gagawin. But if you have no idea, because you are not listening or paying attention, definitely, you will be misguided as well. Alright? So another, choose one and explain. Yes, at the back.
Number 4, to respond to feelings. We all know we have different perspectives. When we listen to other people, we're able to know the other person's feelings, and with that, we can say something about them and can share other ideas with them.
Okay, thank you for that. How about from our students at home? Are they commenting something? They might be sharing something. Kindly check my face-to-face students. Baka may nagko-comment sa ating comment section. Alright. So, next one. Another choice, yes?
To enjoy. One great example for this is music. We can listen and we can enjoy music if we don't listen to it. And as for a dancer, you can enjoy dancing if you don't vibe and listen to the music as well.
Wow! Perfect! Good answers! Diba? That is correct. I like the word vibe. Diba? You cannot enjoy dancing, you cannot fully enjoy dancing without listening first and then jiving to the vibe of the music. Is that correct? Alright. And lastly, how about to be able to engage in social rituals? Social rituals. What are those? Any thoughts on that? Rituals. Any idea? What are the, as a Filipino, What do we have as rituals? Any social ritual?
For me po, social rituals is deal with various beliefs and norms po. So that if we are able to engage with different people, we are able to getting along well with them and know their insight, information, or something that can hinder their social interaction po. In that case, you'll able to know or and control your attitude based on the differences of each person po. Like social rituals, we are dealt with different religions, and with that we can respect each other's feelings and to refrain getting in a situation where we are able to set aside the conflict.
I understand. Thank you so much. I agree very well with you. Palakpakan naman natin, no? That was indeed meaningful explanation of to be able to engage. So she is correct. As an individual, earlier I made mention of the different shared values, extension programs. How can you go outside if you do not know how to jive with other people? And we can only do that when we engage with them, even with their social rituals. Whatever their belief is, we can be able to engage with them, right? If we listen and try to be open. Sabi nga, the term is respect. Other social beliefs. So we will not be just be believing or stuck in our own beliefs. Lalo na future teachers. We will go outside, mingle with different students, different culture. So we cannot just be confined with our own culture. Okay? So there you have it. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, a round of applause. Huwag tayong titigil ng pagbibigay ng no? This applause is meaningful for each and every one of us. So another here is listening is a communication technique. Why technique? Because when you listen, it requires the listener to understand. Definitely, if you listen, you will understand. And not only understand, interpret, just like what you did earlier. You chose from the 4 different benefits of listening. Why do we listen? And then from there, you were able to interpret and evaluate. The 4 students gave their interpretation, and then the rest, you were not just passive participants, you were actually evaluating what you were hearing. Correct? So definitely, in all areas of this room, all of us were engaged into listening. Diba ang ganda? So that's how important listening is. Just imagine if one person is speaking, like for example, I'm speaking right now, and all of you are doing so many other things on your own. Do you think learning is possible? Diba hindi? No, yes, I agree with you. I don't think learning will be possible. So, on the second sentence here, listening effectively improves personal relationships through the reduction of conflict. Reduction. It might not be eliminated as in zero conflict, but it can be reduced. And it can strengthen cooperation through collective understanding, while speaking on the other hand, because if you're listening, the other person is speaking. So while speaking is a vocalization of human communication. So if there's a speaker, definitely there should be a listener, right? And being able to express an idea, concept through speech in speaking is essential, equally essential in the communicative process. And languages are about communication. So speaking, listening, and the next slide here, we mentioned communicative process. So what is the listening process? There is a process, just like in speaking, all right? In listening, we also have a process. First is receiving. So receiving there has a definition. Would you like to read it for us? Yes, other hands. I want to hear other people speak as well. How about our CSR?
Receiving is the intentional focus on hearing the speaker's message, which happens when we filter out other sources so that we can isolate the message and avoid the confusing mixture of incoming stimuli. At this stage, we are still only hearing the message.
Okay, so that was clear that receiving is just actually the first stage wherein we just hear the message. And then what's the next stage? The next stage is understanding. Would like to read that for us? Yes?
Understanding stage, we attempt to learn the meaning of the message, which is not always easy. For one thing, if a speaker does not initiate learning, it may be difficult to tell what the message was. With your fancy, I think she'll relate for class, or may teacher delay the class. The consequences of ineffective learning is in the classroom that we must.
All right. Okay, so in understanding stage, this is not an easy stage. Okay? Receiving is easy because as you hear the audio, you are already listening, you're receiving it. But when you try to understand, when you now need to understand, it's not always easy. Because if a speaker does not enunciate, even if we are, for example, both Filipinos, and even if we have the same language, but the word is not enunciated properly or clearly, definitely there is difficulty in understanding the message. Kahit parehong language, even if that's Filipino or English or any language per se. Okay? For example, I think she'll be late for class, or my teacher delayed the class. So, if there is, if the enunciation is not clear, definitely the consequence is different. Kasi, of course, not attending class or the teacher delayed the class are two different things. Okay. So, the first is, again, the next one is, and the third is remembering. Okay. Any volunteer for reading this part? Remembering. Any? It is said here that remembering begins with, if you can't remember something that was said, you might not have been listening effectively. Walden and Coakley note that the most common reason for not remembering a message after the fact is because it wasn't really learned in the first place. You know, when you cannot remember something, maybe it was not really learned in the first place. For example, you watched a movie, and then after watching, a friend asked you, hey, watch that movie, what was it all about? And then you pause for a while, and then, yeah, I watched that. I really don't remember the theme or what was it all about. So nanood ka ba remembering a message is because maybe it wasn't really learned in the first place. So you would only know that a student has learned if the student remembers something. That's why as a teacher, when you start your lesson, you just do not start with the lesson. You have recap or review of the past lesson wherein, yes, you may give some points, but also you get some answers from the students. So, it's really a part of the lesson. Yan. Hindi nakita yung PowerPoint. I'm having a... Alright. Kung ano-ano lang. Alright. The positioning of the... I'm sorry for that. I really do not have a table here. I am just mixed up with 3 armchairs. Yan. Kaya for those watching, kapit lang. Alright. Next. The 4th stage is evaluating. Now, when you say evaluate, what word comes into your mind aside from evaluate? Yes? Analyze? Assess? Correct? Analyze, assess, or according to that? Judge. Alright. But of course, we judge the message, not the person. Okay? Because only God can judge us. Wala, sumegway lang. Anyway, so we might be thinking, this is the part we're in, we say, this one makes sense. Or, this is very odd. Things like that. So this is the part that you're evaluating what you remember or what you listen to. And this part is the part of the listening process wherein you try to weigh if the statement is biased, all right? If the perspective is learned from widely diverse sets of life experiences, okay? Or evaluations of the same message, even of the same message, can vary from one listener to another. There are so many instances like that, wherein we have one statement, but one person has a different evaluation of that message from the other person just beside that person. Okay? And take note, even the most open-minded listener will have an opinion to what he or she is listening to. So, those opinions will definitely influence how the message is evaluated. That's why when we have feedback, definitely it will have an influence on how the message is evaluated. People are more likely to evaluate a message positively if the speaker speaks clearly, presents ideas logically, and gives reasons to support the points made in a certain statement. Isn't it? Do you agree? We have a more positive, we can say, feedback or evaluation depending on the message that we listen to. Of course, if the message or the speaker is not speaking clearly if the topic is not logically arranged, the sequence of the message is not arranged, definitely positive feedback is far from what we should expect. Okay, also giving reasons or evidences to support the claim. It will also make the feedback positive. All right, again, so let's have a short recap from the first listening listening process. And all right, this one is responding. All right, very good. You're all listening attentively. So responding. So earlier it was evaluating. Responding is more of the feedback. All right, you give out the message, your message, from the evaluation you made in your mind. Okay, so this is the fifth and the final stage of the listening process, and in this stage you indicate your involvement. That's why you will voice it out. Okay, you voice out your feedback from the evaluation that you have done, from the listening that you made. And almost anything you do at this stage can be interpreted as feedback. May it be, there is an example there, but I'll read that later. For example, the nodding, the simple nodding of the head, it's already a feedback. Okay? If you're giving, for example, you're giving a positive feedback to your instructor, if at the end of the class you stay behind to finish a sentence in your notes or approach the instructor to ask for clarification, do you think it's a positive feedback? Even at the end of the class, you stay behind, you finish a sentence, you finish your writing, and then you approach the instructor, ma'am, sir, can you spare me some minutes? I would just like to ask something. Do you think it's a positive feedback? If you're a teacher, you put yourselves in the shoes of your teachers. Kayo na yung teacher ngayon. You are the teacher now. And then you just, you think you successfully finished the class with all of your might and passion for teaching. Okay, and then someone approaches you. Do you think it's a positive feedback? No? Okay, I will be asking you to raise your right hand if you think it's positive. Remember, you just finished your class. You are in your class and you finished with your lesson. And then you see a student at the back really writing, still finishing the writing activity, and then approaches you. Ma'am, can I ask a question if you don't mind? Can you spare me some minutes? If you're the teacher, would you think it's a negative feedback? Yes? All right. Let's take it from, I hear you say something.
If there's a situation where the student after you finish teaching a lesson and then a student approach you and ask a question, I think it will be a positive feedback.
Correct! Give a round of applause. Yes. We take it as a positive feedback. Ay, nasa na? Okay, it's a positive feedback because it means your student is listening. Correct. Imagine you're done with the class, but the student is still there trying to finish the lecture and then even ran after you. Okay? Ran after you and Ma'am, can I have some minutes? I just want to ask something. Isn't it a wonderful gesture from a student? Diba? Maybe on the other hand, even siguro, you were thinking that the lesson just finished and you were trying to ask. Maybe you did not listen very well. No, yun yung iba, no? But I understand that point. I understand that. On the other hand, that's the other scenario. But if you go to classrooms nowadays, well, pre-pandemic, very few come to a teacher and ask about the lesson. Many just want the teacher to finish and just go out and play ML or do whatever they have to do with their cell phone. So it's a positive feedback, definitely. Okay? All right. Very challenging hour of the day because it's siesta time. Okay. All right. So again, the 5 listening process. Listening.
Understanding, remembering, evaluating, responding.
Okay. I'm seeing a message in the comment section. Is anyone online here? We would like to cater those at home. So, basahin natin ang comments. So, yun yung difference ng merong hybrid. I want to accommodate also, meron ding natututo na nanonood. Okay, from to the moon. Wow, is it one? Galilee Cabas, it is actually a positive feedback. Ayan. Because it means that the student is willing to understand the lesson. Thank you, Galilee Cabas. I agree with you. Ayan. We have viewers from other parts of the world. Japan, Y Suzuki, shout out. Konnichiwa. Tularan ka dapat, ma'am, ng ibang teachers. Thank you po to the moon, sampunta. Road trip. Road trip, brum brum. Okay. Thank you to the moon. O yan, even our audience from around the world is engaging in this class. Wow, thank you. Yan. This is the other side of Kamahal, my true profession. Alright, the vlogs that you are watching are just the other side of my kalokohan. Anyway, this is my professional side. Alright, now since we are talking about feedback, going back to the lesson, feedback. Okay. It is said here, when it's all about feedback, okay, not all response occur at the end of the message. Formative feedback is a natural part of the ongoing transaction, between a speaker and a listener. As the speaker delivers the message, a listener signals his or her involvement with focused attention. Note-taking, nodding, and other behaviors that indicate understanding or failure to understand the message. All right. So that is what formative feedback means. Again, not all responses occur at the end. So the nuances you are doing right now, the nodding, I'm seeing the nodding. I'm seeing also your eyes smile and agree with me. And also the way you sit down, the way you sit is also a feedback. Right? I believe in that because how we actually sit and present ourselves is already a feedback. That when you are sitting straight and ready to receive lessons and thoughts and ideas, that's an indication of a good feedback, that you are with me. Are you with me? Yes. Okay. There you have it. Okay. These signals mentioned here are all important to the speaker. Remember, you are future educators. So when you are teachers inside of the classroom is much easier because you are seeing your students face to face. But when it's an online class, it might be a little difficult to get through your students because it's all just cameras you are looking at. So when you are already in the classroom, you will actually be attentive to the feedback from your students. Kailangan natin yon as future teachers. Their eyes, it's important that you look at your students, even those at the back. Are they okay? Are they still attentively listening? Are they not? Lahat kasi intindihin mo as a teacher. Okay? And whether the message is clear, are they understanding? Especially English teachers, we tend to speak in English before the class. So you should also be attentive to the facial expressions. If you see your students, all right, mga nakakunot na, and you see other students slouching and almost lying, parang kulang na lang, matulog na at itaas na yung paa, it's a signal that you have to change your strategy. You have to get the attention again. You have to get their attention. Okay, everybody stand. Things like that. Oh, everybody stand. Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Alright, very attentive. Talagang tumayo silang lahat when I said everybody stand. So, when you see that your students need something, no, to get back into your lesson, so you ask them. So, you know jumping jack? Okay, so let's have it. Maybe a 5 will do. All right, jumping jack. In 1, 2, 3, everybody, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay! Cool. And then we're not yet done. Everybody face the right side of the room. And then those at the back, you reach one arm forward, reaching the shoulder of your classmate. Now you move forward. Yan, sige, touch the shoulder. And then tap it. Massage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then face the other side. Bawi. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there you have it. Ayan. Yes, read it for us. What did she say?
May ano po, MJ Garcia, shoutout po. Anything that shows any sign of response can also be a feedback such as emotions, gestures, or body language. To the moon, parang katambay mga students.
Okay lang yan. I'm not affected. Wag lang below the belt. I-delete natin yan. Okay. To the moon, you are a very good observant. That's the very reason why, ayan, I asked them to stand and to do some movements and to tap the shoulder of your classmates and then the other way also para magising sila. I know that because it's a very challenging time. Remember, it's 3 in the afternoon where Filipinos have their siesta. We are having an intellectual activity here in our room. So talagang natural yan. Medyo maninibago ang mga students because it's the first time they're having a face-to-face class. Thank you to the moon. Road trip. Okay. So there you go. So application of what we are discussing. As a teacher, we should pay attention to the feedback of our students. Makikita natin yan. Just like, who was that who mentioned the comment from your classmate?
MJ Garcia po. Tapos isa mga
Garcia, yes, you are correct. Even with the movements, makikita natin yan. Okay? Next. That is formative feedback. How about the summative feedback? Again, reiteration. Thank you for the heart, heart, heart. Formative feedback from the root word of formative. What's the root word of formative? Form. So you form. So the responses is not necessarily at the end, but during. Because you are forming. Alright? During the discussion. While summative feedback is given at the end. That's why it's summative. Just like summary or sum. Alright? So summative, summary, it's at the end. So I'm just giving you words that you can actually think of in times that you forget or get confused, formative, or summative. So maaalala mo, ay summative. It's just like summary. So it's at the end. Okay? For example, when you attend a political rally, presentation, given by a speaker you admire, any political candidate you admired before, ayan, you are giving a feedback, right? And then, even in class, there are verbal and non-verbal ways of indicating your appreciation. Or, for example, if you have disagreements with the message or the speaker, it can be given at the end. Again, verbal and... Okay. Maybe you'll stand up and applaud the speaker. Ayan, nahiya sila. You can do that as... Is it verbal or non-verbal? Non-verbal. Correct. Okay, so when you stand up and give an applause, that's non-verbal. And you agree with just sitting, staring in silence. You just sit down and stare. Even the speaker has already finished the speech, and you just sit down and stare. What is that? A negative or positive feedback? Negative. Because that's not the reaction of an impressed listener, isn't it? Tapos, oh, thank you so much for listening. Bye, everyone. And then you just... So definitely it's negative feedback. Okay. All right. So that's clear. Formative feedback, summative feedback. And now let's go to classifications. Classification is different from the listening process. This one is how do we classify the different types of listening. So listening can be classified into several types. Depending, paano kaya siya? How do we classify? It's depending on how you listen, how you pay attention to what is being said or heard. Okay, the first one, passive listening. So how is passive listening described? It is said here. Alright, passive listening is listening without reacting. You allow someone to speak without interrupting. Bahala ka dyan. Sige lang, just go on. I'll just be listening. Or not doing anything else at the same time. That is passive. You're just listening. You are not disregarding as well kasi you're not doing anything. You're just listening. But you're not saying anything to interrupt. So that is passive listening. How about attentive listening? Yes, go ahead. Who is speaking? The problem with wearing masks is that you do not know who is speaking. That's why you have to raise hand. Okay, attentive listening. Anyone who can see the PowerPoint from the back? Okay, go ahead.
Attentive listening is reacting or doing something that demonstrates you are listening and have understood. Giving nonverbal cues to demonstrate your paying attention, such as nodding, making eye contact, making facial expressions appropriate to what is being said, reflecting back the main points and summarizing what has been said.
Okay. So definitely, you can assess attentive and passive listening by the feedback or by the actions of the listener, isn't it? Okay. So, simple nodding, making eye contact, making facial expressions appropriate to what is being said. For example, it's about a celebration. If you are attentively listening, oh, celebration, a warm applause, and then our eyes are, twinkling, and we're with a happy aura because it's celebration. You heard it was about celebration. But if it's, for example, someone passed away, and we would like to ask everyone to pray with us at this very moment, eh hindi ka nakinig, woo! Your reaction was, diba? If you did not listen carefully to that, alright? Bigla kang what will be the effect if you did not actively listen? Okay? So we should have our facial expressions appropriate to what we are listening to. Correct? And reflecting back the main points and summarizing what has been said. This can be done if you are attentively listening. You can reflect back. You can rephrase. You can summarize what that person said because you were listening. Okay, so again, the first two classifications are correct. Then let us go to critical or analytical listening. So this type of listening is careful, systematic thinking and reasoning to see whether a message makes sense in light of factual evidence. Critical listening can be learned with practice, but it's not necessarily easy to do. When you are when you tend to be a critical listener, it's not easy. And maybe some people never ever learn this skill. Instead, they take every message at face value, even when those messages are in conflict with their knowledge. If, for example, a professor is speaking before you and you are just not agreeing with the message and you just want to keep quiet because it's the face value of your admired individual or higher ups or bosses or anyone superior to you. Of course, you can never learn being critical because if you are just looking at the person's, authority, hindi ka napapalag, di ba? You would just, okay. Alright. So even if you are in doubt or even if the message is in conflict with your knowledge, if you look up to that person and if that person has a great impact to your livelihood, are you getting my point? Minsan hindi ka na lang kikibo. And this way, if you do that, you are not practicing your critical or analytical listening skills. Alright? You can never learn it because you do not practice it. Okay. But at times, I believe that there are instances in our lives that even if the message that we get is in conflict with our knowledge, we really do not need to debate all the time. Sometimes it's okay to be kind than to be right, isn't it? So, meron tayong ganun Filipino attributes, no? That we learn to put ourselves, no? Lalo na, for example, parents po na yung nagsabi, you just say, yes, okay po, sorry po. Diba? Even if sometimes it's in conflict with your knowledge. So, may ganun tayong high level of respect, diba? To the authority, the person superior to us. And it's not a bad thing for me. There are times you need to speak up, but there are times that, even if you're right, that you have to just let it be. It is what it is. Okay. So, appreciative listening. I think this is one of the most enjoyed type of listening. From the picture speaks for itself. Alright, what do you see in that image? What do you see in that image? Yes? Anyone? What do you see in that image? Go ahead. Miss Checkard. What do you see in that image?
Enjoyment.
Yes, the girl
Is enjoying while listening.
enjoying the music, correct? Yes. Do we have some comments in the comment section? Yes, what do you see in the picture? You can key in your comments down. Listening to music. See, to the moon, you want to become a student. Okay. She is covering her ears while listening. From Alexander Sultan, classmate. MJ Garcia, happy or enjoying the music. Skirt, broom, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Kamahal. Good afternoon po. Jessa Lucerbo, present. Oh, attendance is coming. Alright, saan ka punta? Okay lang po yan, to the moon, sabi ni saan ka punta. Wow, okay. Yan, ma'am, na-miss ko mag-aral, ma'am. Nag-stop kasi ako mag-aral nung nagsimula ang pandemic. So, I guess you're still in your early 20s. Ngayon po, nasa trabaho ako, nag-iipon para makapag-enroll ako next year. Welcome to PUP Taguig! Ayan. Sige, aral ka to the moon. That's cool. That's the best decision. Alright. From Estole Felicity, listening happily and enjoying it. Orkiza Verlin, enjoying the music. Ayan. Thank you, Pohas. Mary Rose, listening with headphones. Correct? Alright. So this is what we call the appreciative listening. When you listen for appreciation and for enjoyment, correct? That is appreciative listening. Especially when we are exhausted the whole day with all the different types of listening. Diba? We listen to different individuals, and then at the end of the day, you just want to relax, take it easy, breathe, and have a refreshment while listening to your favorite music, lying on the bed, on the beach. Wow. Appreciative listening. Think about the music you listen to. I know you are listening to different types of music. Maybe the music that is not familiar to me or to other classmates, but it doesn't matter. Just think about the music you usually listen to because you enjoy it. You feel the enjoyment. That is said to be appreciative listening. All right. And what else do we have here? The same can be said for appreciative listening when someone is speaking. Who among you here loves to listen to a person he looks up to? When that person is speaking, that is, and you appreciate it, you enjoy listening to that person, even if you speak to that person for the whole day. Iba na yun, in love na yun. O, diba? In love na yun kasi whole day na eh. Okay. That is also appreciative listening. When that person's voice becomes a music to your ears. Ano yan? Come again? Sana all. That is appreciative listening. Okay. And we have here some more common types of appreciative listening. For example, places of worship. The ones earlier, we have two who are church singers. That is appreciative also. When you love to worship God with the songs that we sing at church, that is appreciative listening. From a motivational speech or speaker, that is appreciative. By someone we listen to, from the people wherein we hold high regard or respect, that is appreciative listening. When we listen to our favorite comedian, stand-up comedian, where we laugh, that is appreciative listening. There you go. All right. Now, again, let's go back. Who can tell me again the different classifications of listening?
Passive listening, attentive listening, critical or analytical listening, appreciative listening.
Correct. Very good, children. Okay. Now we have here, moving on, guidelines for listening well. I know as an individual, as a young adult like you already know how to listen. But still, if you want to learn more about listening, we have here several guidelines prior to listening, before listening. So there is what we call a preparation before listening. For example, when you are teaching, when you are to listen to a subject teacher or instructor or a YouTube, anything. So first you have to stop whatever you are doing. Okay? And then I think this is intended for a classroom setup. Arrange the chair comfortably. Or we can do this when we are about to watch a Netflix movie. Of course, you have to stop what you're doing. You have to arrange the sofa, alright, where we are about to position ourselves. So, arrange it comfortably. And then, sit comfortably before listening. And then, remove any barriers. If in the classroom, okay, clear the desk. That's why as a teacher, before you start the class, there is what we call classroom management. We have to prepare our students to listen. So when we do that, when you go inside of the classroom, the regular classroom I am pertaining to, not an online class, for example, all right, everybody, good afternoon. Okay, before we start anything, I want you to put away everything on top of your desk, clear your desks, so that you will be ready for our lesson for the day. Do you remember some of your teachers saying that to you? Yes, because, yes, correct. That is one of the classroom managements wherein we prepare our students for listening. Because if there are any obstructions on the table, there is a pad and a pen or a color pencil, definitely the tendency the student will draw or write something. That's why we ask them to, okay, good afternoon everyone. They ask you to clear your desks now. There you go. And then after that, ensure there will not be any interruptions. Close the office door or put your cell phones on silent mode. Okay. If you anticipate making notes, get the person's permission. That's why earlier I told you that the same PowerPoint is also posted in our Google Classroom. It's another way of saying you may opt to just listen and not take down notes. It's a suggestion. At the end of the day, there are students who really learn when they write notes, isn't it? That's also me when I was a student. I learn when I tend to take important notes. So there's nothing wrong about that. It's a good thing as well. And another here, these are just guidelines. It's our, at the end of the day, it's still our call. All right, if we want to do it or not. And then anything else, be aware. All right. And that is before listening. While as the person is speaking, here are some pointers. Of course, you have to focus completely on what the person is saying. Do not do any other activity or think about any other topic. That's why when the teacher is in front and that teacher looks at the faces of the students, and then the teacher notices someone looking outside, staring the trees, the chirping of the birds, the teacher might ask, I don't know if you have heard this from your high school or elementary teachers. And then, are you with me? Diba? Okay, the teacher will, are you with me or are you daydreaming? Are you thinking of someone? Sa high school to mas madalas, right? In high school. Kung mo isipin yun, mahal ka rin nun. Things like that. That's the way of the teacher in getting your attention. Yes, for you to focus back again to the class. Okay, mentally note the main points they are making, ready for summarizing, and listen not only to the words that are said, but also to the tone of the voice and body language. Now that we have not met in person for 2 years, medyo hindi natin ito masyado napapractice, right? We really do not practice being attentive to the tone of the voice and body language of the teacher. But you were with your parents for the whole year, 2 years, right? Siguro, I think mas nakilala niyo yung parents niyo, isn't it? Because you were all together, locked down together, bawal lumabas, diba? And the more that you eat together, you talk together, you stay in the house together, I think this is a good thing for the parents and their children to know each other better. And for the 2 years that you were together with your parent, you already know the tone of the voice. Pag okay pa, uy, anak, diba? The tone of the voice. And then, when you are not attentively listening, second call, third call, pag fourth, iba na yon. May hampas na. Kanina pa ako, ay sorry. Ayan, okay. May ano pala to. Kanina pa ako, okay. So, things like that. And body language as well. If, what? Going back, when you are a future educator, you should be attentive if your student is already nervous. Ako, maraming nininervous sa akin before. I don't know, because when I teach, I roam around, and then I'm so passionately speaking, you know? So, when students are nervous, you have to pay attention. Sumagot ka, tell me something. You have to recite. Eh, yung pala, ano na, hihimatay na. So, ano tayo dyan? Attentive. We should be attentive. Okay? If the student is excited, the students are excited to perform, and then you as a teacher, something occurred and you changed your mind, no performance for today. Oh, but the excitement is already there, so you should be attentive. Okay? And then, of course, if the student is depressed already, we will not take that for granted. Alright, I am always mentioning student, because you are future educators. Okay? So, there you have it. Alright. We have a quote here from Noonan in 1998. Most people think, let me just focus this on the screen. Sorry. Okay. Alright. It is said here, most people think that being able to write and speak in a second language means that they know the language. However, if they do not have the efficient listening skills, it is not possible to communicate effectively. So I will say that again. Being able to write and speak in a second language does not mean you know everything. What's more important is that you listen efficiently, because with listening, you can effectively communicate as well. It is the counterpart of what's said here. Not if they do not have the efficient listening skills, it is impossible to communicate effectively. So if you want to be the best communicator, English language teacher, definitely you should learn how to listen first. Okay, that is from Noonan in 1998. Okay. Are you still with me? Yes. All right. Good job. Okay. I have here several activities in integrating listening with other macro skills. But I also believe that as you become educators, you will also have different strategies and styles on your own. These are just examples, okay, for you to read. Maybe you can apply it or not, depending on how you deliver your lesson in the future. But anyway, just for reference, I have here some listening activities. And dual dictation. Dictation is very common in DepEd. Okay, because sometimes we lack books. Okay, and then this is the activity that will really show the listening skills of your students. Makikita mo talaga with the dictation. Alright, for example, write this on your notebooks. Okay, things like that. But nowadays, we really have to be particular with the need of the student. If we do this, the teaching learning process might suffer as well. So teachers nowadays really use visual aids, PowerPoints, or you have to post, for example, the assignment. Before, it's just dictation in our time. In the 90s, it's just dictation. But nowadays, aside from actually dictating, reading it, it's also posted on the board, wherein they can see your visuals. Okay? So again, these are just sample activities. Also, class memory quiz, listen for lies. There is, the instruction there. Teaching strategies. Are you listening to me? Yeah, common lines from a teacher. Are you listening? Okay. Then, the nature of listening skill. Listening is a cognitive process. Some might think that it's not really intellectual because there is a certain stage wherein we are able to listen. Diba, as a baby, as early as an infant, nakakarinig na tayo, diba? So some people think that listening is really not a cognitive process because it's naturally inborn for those who are normal like us. Diba? Hindi naman sinasabi not normal yung iba, right? But listening is just acquired. We really do not need to study how to listen. We just hear. Okay? But actually, it is an intellectual process. Okay? Why? Because of decoding. When you listen, you have to decode, you have to interpret, you have to understand and evaluate, just like the listening process we discussed a while ago. So definitely, looking back at those processes, we can say that listening is an intellectual process. Correct. And also, it is a mode of communication. It's just as important as speaking, reading, and writing. Okay. Barriers to effective listening. What are the possible barriers? Okay. To improve the process of effective listening, it can be helpful to turn the problem on its head and look at barriers. Now, this is presented also in our instructional material. So we just have here examples. I want you to pay attention to the last sentence saying, we do not fully listen to the rest of the speaker's message if there are barriers in listening. So definitely we have to identify what the barriers are and try to reduce or eliminate them so that we can listen effectively. Okay. One common problem stated here, instead of listening closely to what someone is saying, we often get distracted after a sentence or two. Have you ever experienced, I think this one is so cool. Have you ever experienced talking to a friend, and then your friend, as this friend tells you a story, you parang nakakabitin, and then you are the one trying to finish the statement. For example, hey, you know what? We went to... And then, hindi ka pa tapos, ay, saan? Nagpunta kayo doon? Sa ano? Kaila ano? Hindi doon. Hindi doon. Doon sa isa nating classmate. Oh, and then dumating si ano? Sino? Si Crush. So you are, diba? Filipinos, come on. We are like that. When someone tells us a story, we are so excited to that story that we finish the sentence, we interrupt the speaker with just a word or two or a statement, and then we try to finish it, and then we try to, where? There in that, no, not there. You let me finish first, diba? Things like that. So it's somewhat light and happy engagement, okay? But it can also be a barrier to effective listening. Kasi mainipin tayong mga Pinoy. Right? Agree? Are you with me? Ako, guilty ako dyan. Mainipin. So that even in listening to stories, we try to, ang tagal, sige na, what's the next, di ba? What happened? So gusto na natin agad matapos. And that is said to be a barrier to effective listening. Alright. We also have levels of listening ability. I have here a YouTube link where you can click this on maybe in our asynchronous learning. And then there is an instruction here. This is about your listening ability. This will be posted also in our Google Classroom, so worry not. And if you already want it, you can actually give me a buzz and say, ma'am, can we have the link that we posted? I don't know if you can actually click this link in the PowerPoint or you can copy-paste. Copy-paste, right? So, pwede rin yun, so that you may have access to it. And then, levels of listening is somewhat similar to classifications of listening. Okay, so in the first part, we have here starting from the bottom is number 1, ignoring. Let me just check. I'm seeing a lot of comments here. Then, pabitin po yung kwento. Yeah. De, alam mo ba? From Galilee. Correct. And then pabitin na yung, pabitin pa po yung taga-kwento. Correct. Right. Alright, there you have it. And then this one, the first one is ignoring. This one is the level of listening. Yes, go ahead. Levels of listening, ignoring. Ayan, many of us are like this, ignoring, especially when we are busy, when we are occupied. And then pretend. The second one is you're pretending that you are listening, but you're really not. That's patronizing. And then 3 is selective listening. You only listen to what you want to hear. When the words are not in accordance to how you feel or believe, you tend to not listen to it. That's selective. Yung gusto mo lang marinig, yung pinapakinggan mo. And then we have number 4, attentive listening, which we also have in the classification. And the emphatic listening. Emphatic listening, I think I have all of those presented with explanation there. So ignoring, you are talking but the other person is not giving any attention. Yes. And then pretend that you're truly hearing and attentively listening with all of your attention, but actually it's not happening. That's pretending. Selective is selectively listening to the parts only favorable to that person. Okay? And then level 4, attentive listening is offering their time and attention. Really offering time and attention just to listen to you. Okay? And then, number 5, emphatic is the kind of listening that is intentional. The person develops this skill not only to the other person's words, but they are willing to give their time and full attention to truly hear and even put their shoes, their feet to the shoes of that person they are listening to. This one is rare. Napakabihira nito. So when you find a friend that listens to you emphatically, a family member, diba? Value that person because this kind of listener is rare. Okay? Imagine they are willing to give their time and full attention to hear you. Okay? Now, as you hear the 5 levels of listening, okay, where do you think you can see yourself in that 5 more often? I mean, sometimes we become, we ignore, but those answers can be just to yourself. Okay? So what type of listener are you most of the time? Ayan. Parang gusto kong pasagutan, no? Then I'll give credit for the answers. I'll check the notebooks. Ang sarap ng ganun, no? One question, and then I just check it. So, yes, do we have comments here? Hi. Hi. Okay. All right. When you're focused, I think I want to read this part. When your last sentence, okay, you can focus on that last sentence. When you're focused, let's try to focus here as well. When your focus is completely on the user and not on yourself, your level of service will be much higher. You know, when you are listening to an individual and giving time and effort to listen to that person, that is already service. Like when we listen to students having problems, that is already service. Now, it is said here, when your focus is completely on the user, meaning on the other person, and not yourself, your level of service is or will be much higher. Because we do not live to satisfy ourselves. We live to share with the feelings of other people. Okay? So it's important that we focus. Of course, we have to love ourselves, but it will not hurt you if you love other people as well. Okay? Because God is love. Agree? Okay. Kasi pag hindi tatayo ulit ako mag-explain. Alright? Okay. Now, after the levels of listening, well, we already have the activity for the day. Time check, 3:48. Okay, what I have here is a link for the activity. Let me check if I can play it here. Nasaan yung link kanina? Let me see. Is this the link? Let me see. For our activity, macroskills. So number 1, you have to make a list of some of the abstract words you have misunderstood while watching your chosen video on listening. So this one, I will have you choose your own video to listen to, and then what you're going to do is you just list down some difficult words, abstract words you have misunderstood, and then you will reflect on your listening in class or in other settings while remembering information. Okay. Reflect. Ay, sorry. Reflect. Thank you for that. Ano siya? Okay. Alright. So, reflect. So, the first one, you will listen to a video, write down abstract words. Ay, baka rin. Saan kaya siya? There you have it. So, number one, make a list of abstract words you misunderstood. And then, what were the consequences of the misunderstanding? Why did you not understand the words that you have listed or that you will list down after watching a video? And then reflect, number two, on your listening in class. You can actually state or use this setting, the class we're having right now, and reflect on your listening for today. We were here the whole day. And then tell me in your writing, tell me what keeps you from remembering information accurately. For example, for the topics that we have done earlier or discussed earlier, what were the topics you remembered, and tell me what keeps you from remembering those information. Okay? And then number three, give an example of a time when you felt that your message was misunderstood or treated with shallow attention. And how did you know your message was misunderstood? Meron ba? Was there an instance that you were misunderstood? And how did you know that you were misunderstood or rejected? And then, what does this mean you must do as a student of public speaking? After realizing that you were misunderstood, and why, how do you know you were misunderstood? And then discuss, what does this mean to you? And what will you do as a student of public speaking? And then, number four, do you think you need to improve your listening? Yes or no? And then, if so, what are you going to do to listen better in the future? Okay, so we have 4 questions here. So in number 1, you will have to listen to a video. But since I guess most of you do not have an internet access, I will try to play a video, and then you will have to all to listen to that video together here. Okay? Are you following? Any questions about the activity? Was that clear? Ayun. For those of you at home, was the activity clear? Parang nag-aaral uli ako. Nice. Thank you, Rubespierre Comodas. Opo, aral po tayo. Okay. Are you sure you have no questions with the activity? So, that is only 4. I will look for a video now so that we will watch a video together. Yes? Today. Kaya ba today? Kaya pa ba today? Okay, so, pwede naman you can post it in our Google Classroom. No? Ganun na lang. So, you can actually travel home now kasi gagabihin kayo, di ba? If I leave. I'm sorry, did you like it? Okay. So, pwede na rin, since some of your classmates are also at home, so what we are going to do, I'll create this activity in our Google Classroom, and you will just have to post your answers there, and that's it. That's where I'm going to. Mas masarap sanang mag-check, but you also have classmates at home. So kayo rin, para you can breathe also, and you can travel while the sun is up. Wow. Talagang, the topic today, no, is feedback. The feedback is, the message is clear with all of the feedback. Yes, we want you to be safe. So you may, yes.
I apologize, ma'am, but the instructions were here for those at home, especially since we can see what is on the screen.
Okay. It's natural that the instruction is not clear to you because you are at home, but the PowerPoint is presented in the Google Classroom, so you will just have to browse it. Anyway, all of the things mentioned today are in the PowerPoint and in the instructional material, and the activity also will be posted. So it's all about listening. Okay? So you just find time. Don't worry, who is that? What's the name?
Merlin John po.
Merlin John. Okay, Merlin John, next meeting, October 18, bawi naman kayo because I think they will be the ones who will not really fully understand. Diba? Kasi sila naman ang nasa bahay, they will be at home and you will be here personally. So, tiis-tiis lang tayo. It is what it is. So, ano lang tayo. You can go back to this video, right? You can play this again. Am I right? So, you can play this again. And if you want to listen, pwede kang another strategy is that you can look at the PowerPoint at home and you can listen to the lesson that we had in this live streaming. So, pwede yon. If you want to listen again to this video, just play this video again while looking at the PowerPoint. Anyway, you have a week to answer the activity. So, you have ample time to listen again to this video. Okay? Melvin John, what's the last name?
Garcia po.
Garcia. Okay, Mr. Garcia. I hope I was able to answer your question. Yes? Deb,
Ma'am, wala pa po tayong may classes sa Teach Macroskills po.
meron na po. I'll just send the link. Okay? Meron na po. Lahat yan nagawan ko na. I'll just send the link. You just take it easy. One step at a time. Okay? One step at a time. Do not think too much about it. Sila nga babiyahe pa. Okay? Sila babiyahe pa. So, I wish you have a safe travel going home. Do not stroll. Diba? Wag nang maggala. Go home straight. Because your family is waiting for you. Okay? I hope you enjoyed this class for this afternoon. And then for other queries of my students at home, you can just use the Facebook Messenger that we have. Okay? I hope you enjoyed watching all with our subject, teaching and assessment of the macro skills. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for watching.